Let's you and I have a little moment real quick, okay?
Gunbrella.
What's going on, everybody? It's Zach from SwitchForce, and I am so pumped to be bringing you this review of one of the coolest new indies on Switch. If you want the 2-second version, loved every second of it. If you want the long version, here we go. So Gunbrella popped out on Switch earlier this week from Devolver Digital. You know it's going to probably be good. And Doinksoft, and boy did they doink this one. They doinked it straight out of the park. And what I think so impressive about Gunbrella, despite some of its nuances and graphical flourishes, is that one mechanic stands this apart, and one mechanic drives this far above other comparable side-scrolling pixel art indie platformers. So Gunbrella features a gruff, older gentleman wielding a gunbrella. The dude is so dang polite, he pauses for the title screen to appear before he crosses the bridge. His kindness, though, may as well stop there, because the rest of the game is about him killing everyone with his umbrella. This is Mary Poppins gone mad, and Yondu would be proud. But there's an aspect of Gunbrella that is the thing you need to know, which is the float. You can float with this umbrella. You aim it, you open it, you float. There is something so satisfying about this float, and that's why you should get this game. If I really boil it down to one central element, the witch's brew that makes Gunbrella worth its price point, it's the float. You angle up the Gunbrella, you float up. You can jump off of a wall, float again. Every time you jump and hit surface, it allows you to reset your Gunbrella, so soon you are floating your way through the stages and navigating so quickly. The Gunbrella also can be used as a dash, so your movement through this world is insanely fast. And while it is on the shorter side, I do think that the 4, 5, 6 hours you get out of this game would be enhanced or made longer if the Gunbrella wasn't so darn useful. So you're in a situation where the developers made something more fun to use, faster to use, and allowed you to navigate the environments and retrace your steps with speed at the mercy of less hours. Frankly, I think it's a fantastic trade because Gunbrella does have a lot of interesting environments to explore and a lot of characters to shoot down. Now, interestingly, combat is pretty spread out. There aren't too many scenarios where you'll find yourself overwhelmed. Your Gunbrella can fire out basic shotgun shells and eventually many other types of ammo. You have long-range rifle shots, you have exploding trip mines, you've got grenades that deal massive damage, and you've got saw blades that ricochet all around. You'll fight against 1 or 2 characters on screen at a time, keeping the encounters very focused and frankly not that hard. Gunbrella doesn't really up its difficulty until the very end of the game, which on one hand is surprising for a title like this, where I think we expect more difficulty, but on the other hand, makes for a very enjoyable experience. There was only a few boss encounters that I died and had to retry, but for the most part, Gunbrella has great checkpoints, great health system, and a great fun combat feel that never becomes frustrating. I think this adventure is a lot about the story, and it's a lot about the float, and therefore the combat does not need to be this grueling Souls-like experience. Just like games before it, Katana Zero and Celeste, Gunbrella has a very deep, moody story that at times feels disparate from its pixel art graphics, but has united this style many times before quite successfully, and it works well again here. Gunbrella is about your dude trying to figure out who killed your wife and stole your kid, and you gotta go get them back and pay them back. And this freaky umbrella is how you're going to do it. The environments are all very dull in tone and very moody, but the style works, and there's so many nice little animation flourishes. Your character moves great, the enemies look and react great, and they splatter quite great. I will say something that surprised the heck out of me is that Gunbrella starts pretty mundane. I don't mean that in a bad way, but it's just, okay, fighting against these like scrappers, you're fighting against some little like soldier type dudes. It's in a, very kind of, I don't want to say post-apocalyptic, but like a broken down, run down, haves, have-nots type of society. And you're floating through gruff and steampunky, not a lot of electricity, not a lot of technology. Everything seems to be fine. Your guy's polite. He lets the title screen play. Boom! The first boss battle blew my mind. I did not know the styling of the boss battles, the bosses themselves in particular, was going to be so out there. It really does change the entire aesthetic of the game once you start to see the bosses. And when everyone begins talking about sacrifices, blood offerings, and mothers, yeah, this game has some very strange sci-fi twists and turns, and is a bit of a dark, horror-y experience without the jump scares. There's nothing scary about Gunbrella, there's only enjoyment. And yet, I do need to indicate that despite great music, great graphics, awesome traversal, and fun gunplay with a balanced difficulty, something about this does not quite reach the extreme upper echelon that I'd consider home to Celeste and Katana Zero. Those are my two favorites in terms of this side-scrolling, pixelized platformer type game, and this just doesn't feel as ultimately memorable. I really like Gunbrella, and I think it is an A-tier game, but I don't think it's an S-tier game in the way that those two will be my favorites probably forever. It might be that the combat isn't as diverse. It might be that the encounters really require the same approach. Every enemy, you kind of just jump over them, aim down, and shoot. There's a lot of repeated enemies, and maybe the story, it's pretty cool, but I don't know that it goes to any places that really touch you or really shock you. It feels like it's trying to get there, but maybe it just doesn't reach the same heights as those aforementioned two. Now, if you're not the biggest fan of Katana Zero or Celeste, then maybe you'll end up liking this better. I do feel like it's a very balanced game in terms of having quality across the board. Nothing stands out as poor. There's no element of this game that is bad. It's just missing some secret sauce, and I'm not a developer. I don't know what that actually would be. I didn't find myself wanting after playing Gunbrella, but I also didn't find myself like screaming from the mountaintops. I will indicate that my game completely crashed and froze on the final boss encounter after I defeated it. It seems like this has been patched since I played, but I ended up having to watch the final 3-4 minutes on YouTube because I didn't want to deal with fighting the final boss again and running into this glitch that maybe wasn't patched at the time that I played. I think to really stand out and be successful in today's indie scene, you need a defining mechanic, and the Gunbrella is absolutely that. It is a unique and quirky enough weapon mixed with traversal item that it does help Gunbrella own up to its namesake, stand out and stand apart. Too many games of this ilk are too generic, and they're recreating or they're borrowing, and that's all fine and good. Gunbrella does those things as well, but it does have its hook. It's not a hook, although you can hook onto hooks with your umbrella. It works well enough, and I'm really impressed with the way that they got the hands-on controller feel for the Umbrella. That's something that Nintendo is known for, right? Nintendo themselves, they make platformers like Mario, where Mario just feels great to control. Donkey Kong feels great to roll and jump, and Gunbrella feels great to float. There is a perfect sense of momentum, there is a perfect height, there is a perfect glide, you have full control over your character, and there isn't a lot of wiggle room. In this case, that lack of wiggle room allows for precision and fun and speed. And I'm so glad that they decided to implement something wholly original. I don't think there's ever been a Gunbrella before. They run with it, they utilize it throughout the entire game, and I also want to give a shout out to the character voices. For me, this is the most memorable part outside of the Gunbrella float. The character voices, it's like a really nice hybrid of Charlie Brown Parent Talk and also like Animal Crossing or Simish.
Zebra Reefa.
Holy Reba.
I just love their voices. Everybody has different tones, and despite them saying nonsensical words that have no actual auditory meaning, it feels like they have personality. They did a really great job of creating personality for these characters based on unique, strange, bubbly little voices. And I really like that a lot. Outside of your main action of killing, confronting, and continuing on, there are side quests as well. I did a few of these, and it seems like this was a tacked on feature to expand the length of the game. Personally, I would have rather them created an additional environment, another level, another boss, something that was more needed in the main game experience, something that was mandatory for you to go through, as I felt like the rewards for the side quests weren't really all that great or necessary. Now, if you want to fully explore the lore of this game, you can do such, but the side quests are a lot of backtracking, a lot of extra battle sequences, and you end up getting more money or more gears to upgrade your own Gunbrella. I have to talk about the upgrade shop system because it does factor in to this game in a pretty significant way, but at the same time, it doesn't. And maybe this is where they sort of missed the secret sauce to elevate this from A to S rank, in my opinion. There are many shopkeepers where you can buy health items and ammunition for your Gunbrella. There's also one character that allows you to upgrade either the reload speed or the attack power of your Gunbrella, but these are minimal upgrades, and the health items, while distinct, all basically serve the same purpose. And given the game's moderate difficulty, I didn't find myself really needing those health items until the very late stages of the game, probably just the last stage. I will note there's a few interesting decisions you can make in terms of like taking out one shopkeeper, which opens up another shopkeeper, or deciding you're going to try and placate one versus placate the other. And I kind of wish the game would have encouraged more of this decision making. It does feel like there's a few elements that were underexplored here, and it's not that they're bad or that they fail. They're good, they work, but in some ways, maybe instead of doing more, they should have just focused on the main quest. I guess that is my complaint for the game, is like the main quest maybe deserved more time, and maybe we should have gone deeper instead of wider. And perhaps that's why I feel like it does rank a little bit lower. But I want to end on a very positive note, which is that Gunbrella is tons of fun to play, and I absolutely think it's one of the best indies released this year. I'm super pumped that Switch got it first, and it's really an enjoyable time. If you like the float, if you're ready for some slightly challenging but never too hard combat, and some crazy boss battles that require pattern recognition but mostly are an aggressive affair. The more you shoot, the quicker they die. It's pretty basic science. And a storyline that is intriguing but never goes too deep. A graphical style that has really nice animation, and a memorable final level, plus characters that are voiced in just one of the coolest little gibberish ways I've ever seen, then Gunbrella is absolutely for you. The mechanic alone deserves your dollars, and I'm super pumped to fully recommend Gunbrella. It's an A-grade game for me. Not one of the ultimate bests, but definitely one of the very strong indies on Switch, and another great addition to Devolver Digital's library. They are back on track. I cannot wait for Plucky Squire and Pepper Grinder. If they hit those two, this will be the modern trifecta that shows Devolver Digital is one of the very best, and maybe the top, indie publishers on Nintendo Switch. So go grab Gunbrella. It's definitely worth your time, and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay happy, stay positive out there, and until next time, SwitchForce out.